All across America and around the world, this is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. And finally, PuroClean. PuroClean is the paramedics of property damage. It provides water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold removal, biohazard cleanup. It also has a focus on veteran franchisees. You can learn more about them by going to puroclean.com. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today Mike Sherbakov, who is a Marine veteran. We're going to talk about that military service, but we're also going to talk about the venture fund that he is involved in as a general partner. Mike, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Jim, thanks so much for having me today.
Well, let's start with, how did a nice kid like you from California end up in the Marines for 5 years?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of an interesting story. I grew up in the Bay Area and first-generation immigrant. I have two older sisters and a younger brother. And with my family, the path was always, you get great grades, you go to a great college, you get a great job, and that's just, that's your life path. So my oldest sister went to Stanford. My sister after that got a full ride to William and Mary and then got her doctorate in neuroscience. My little brother ended up getting his master's from Berkeley. And I'll tell you this, Jim, I remember exactly where I was when I heard about the planes hitting the towers. And it shook me. And I knew I wanted to do something. Combine that with a number of other factors, including seeing my family, again, as first-generation immigrants, start in this country with nothing, and through entrepreneurship, through hard work and discipline, make an incredible life for themselves. My parents now live in the Bay Area. They have a farm and horses and chickens and goats. And again, seeing what my family was able to do in one generation in this country, seeing an attack on our soil. And I had one of those Marine posters in my room of the Scout Sniper, the Force Recon team. And I just felt like, although everything in my family's telling me to go this one path, which my siblings did, I was going a different way. And so without telling my parents, I actually went to the recruiter's office. Didn't know much about the Marines. I wanted to do the hardest thing I could and join the Marines in June 2003, which was kind of the peak of the war. It was really, we had kind of inserted ourselves into Fallujah in April of 2003. And I was on active duty for 5 years. I went in originally as a ComTech enlisted Marine, ended up teaching their version of hand-to-hand combat called MCMAP, the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. And was very grateful for my time in service, met a lot of incredible people, always interestingly part of non-deployable units to make sure there was the consistency in the training. And in 2008, at the end of my active duty time, I also knew it was time to transition out. There were a number of things and I wanted to implement during my time in the Marines, things that would make processes much more efficient. And that I was essentially shut down when I tried to bring new innovative ideas on ways we could save ourselves so much time and money. And that's ultimately, we can fast forward a lot and talk about the parts in between, but that's ultimately what led me to entrepreneurship. I ended up doing my undergrad after the Marines. I had started and sold 2 companies in the health and wellness space, but I fell in love with entrepreneurship. And now, obviously, with what I do, investing in great startups that are advancing this great nation of ours.
Well, let me back up to the family for a minute, because clearly your parents valued education. They want, the other siblings all kind of went off to that direction. How was it received when, I don't know, what were you, 18 years old or something, when you walked into the house and said, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, guess what? I joined the Marines."
It was a surprise. Yeah, it was a surprise to everyone in my family. And, combine that, I'm kind of giving the wave tops of this, right? But underneath were a number of other factors. I remember going into the recruiter's office, and I don't know if they still do this strategy, but it worked quite well on me. The recruiter put out a bunch of placards with words on them like camaraderie, adventure, brotherhood, patriotism, and said, put these in order of what's important to you. And I remember thinking, I can't even put them in order because they're all important to me. So in addition to the wave tops of what I shared was happening in the country and with my family, it was also a sense of independence for me. It was a sense of wanting to push myself and try something I haven't done, create that separation from my family to prove what I could do, in addition to the patriotism and wanting to defend our great nation. So, it was very unexpected. And I remember not long after, it was only about a month from the time I first walked into the recruiter's office, took the ASVAB, did all of I forgot what they call it, all the screening and everything to be shipped off. It was about a month from the time I first walked in to the time I was stepping on the yellow footprints at MCRD San Diego. And I remember just 3 months later graduating boot camp as a squad leader and kind of peeking out of the corner of my eye and seeing my family sitting on those benches there on the parade deck in San Diego. And it was a very proud moment. I definitely, had a tear coming out of my eye just because I knew how proud they were, even though it was a very unconventional path from my family.
Well, I think Unconventional Path maybe is a good title of your book when you write it. As you went from high school into the Marines for 5 years, where you get a lot of off-book education. You meet a lot of people. You get some income and get to flex your wings a little bit. But as you said, you didn't go and get your college degree. You ended up attaining a Bachelor of Science from San Diego State University until post-Marine Corps, if I understand it.
That's right. So when I got out of the Marines, just a few weeks after my date of separation started at San Diego State University, my last duty station was at Camp Pendleton, and so I knew I wanted to stay in San Diego. And I studied kinesiology and psychology because it was kind of what I knew at the time. And as I was going through my studies, I knew I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship. I didn't end up studying it. I just knew I'd kind of learn it on the job. And so just within a few months of graduating from San Diego State University, I actually started my first business in the health and wellness space called HMS Fitness. It was a franchise model of Fit Body Boot Camp, if anyone's familiar with that company. And we talked a little bit about this before hitting record, Jim, but it really just was a function of hard work and discipline and getting it done, and which is really a large part of the thesis now of the venture capital fund that I started and run with 3 of my partners called the Veteran Fund. We invest in founders like me. It's kind of the thing I wish existed at that time, because I know that military veterans possess a leadership, resilience, and purpose that your kind of average civilian may have, but they've tested it and proven it, and that's why we invest in those types of founders. So, yeah, that's what I did after my studies at San Diego State University. After I sold that first company, I started a second one. I joined a venture-backed startup, and then helped another company ultimately go public via reverse merger. And that was the end of my kind of operational founder experience. I transitioned then full time to the investor side of things. That's what I've been doing for the last decade.
And I want to get to this term internal fire because there's nothing in the Marine Corps, a hand-to-hand combat area or a degree in kinesiology from San Diego State where you'd go, oh, this guy's going to end up in the venture world. But you had an internal fire or drive, and really that's what everybody needs and really accounts for success in the long run, doesn't it?
Jim, you're spot on. And this actually, comes full circle to the story of watching what my parents were able to do in one generation with hard work and discipline and drive. And I really believe this is the only country in the world where you can do that. You're absolutely right. You look at my path, and it is not a traditional one for venture capital. It was traditionally, you go out and you go to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, you get your MBA, you work as an investment banker, you eventually kind of work your way to be maybe an analyst, an associate, and you spend a decade in a firm, and you finally make partner, and you break through. And as you can see, in my path was nothing like that. And only in this country is that possible. But when I find something, and I imagine, Jim, this is the same thing for you, when I find something I'm interested in, I go all in. I've read every single book there is on venture capital. I still listen to every podcast. I talk to everyone about it. There's this insatiable curiosity for me, and quite honestly, the folks that are also in this industry. I'm surrounded in venture capital by big thinkers, by people who solve problems. Yeah,
I want to slow you down a little bit because I want people out there who think, well, I got this idea, but I can't do it. I don't have the right education. I don't have the right connections. I don't have whatever they think is holding them back. Unconventional paths work if you have, as you said, hard work, drive, and curiosity. That's more important than some of those other factors, isn't it?
100%. 100%, Jim. This is also why our investment thesis is what it is at the Veteran Fund. We invest in military veterans running critical technology companies. We're not necessarily, some of them, they graduated from Stanford and Harvard and Yale and all those places, but that's not what we're looking for. We know that, again, they have the leadership, resilience, and purpose to be focused on a mission set and accomplish it. And so, I think anyone, it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you're starting. It doesn't matter whether you have the network, the connections, the resources, or the knowledge. If you have the curiosity and the drive to do it, this country allows you to do that.
And you hit a number of things along the way that I want to point out to people again as to, well, how do I build my pathway, my unconventional pathway to this goal is, well, you get involved in everything. Everything interesting in that field that you want to be in, you get involved in. You were brand ambassador for Bunker Labs. A lot of our listeners will know what Bunker Labs is. You've been a brand ambassador and strategy consultant for different types of big name entities. Fitbit, Lululemon are two that are listed. But you also did something that I thought was interesting because I'd never heard of it. You went to VC University to go through a cohort in 2023, I think it is, to say, I want to learn more. This is where I'm going. I'm driven in this direction. What can I do? And it's really about doing it all, almost, isn't it?
That's exactly right. And that's a perfect example. VC University is just one of many resources out there. Again, I asked everyone in this world of venture capital and angel investing, what are the resources that they recommended? Every book someone mentioned, I'd order. Every podcast they mentioned, I'd listen to and find which ones I resonated with. Every course I could do. Again, I just wanted to immerse myself in it. And then all of a sudden, over time, now it's everyone in my world. I've been doing it for a while now, but everyone in my world professionally is, I kind of look at the network around and see, wow, there are incredible people here that I had no idea would be in my life a decade ago. Incredible investors from all types of firms and angel investors and just the most interesting humans. And it came from following my curiosity. And Jim, an important note here is a lot of those resources are also available for free. In fact, as an example, it was 4 years ago where I started. There's a program called Founder Institute. It's the world's largest startup accelerator, and I still run that program. And I give all veterans a fellowship to go through that program for free. It's kind of, if you have an idea for a business, you go what we call from 0 to 1, which, by the way, is a really great book by Peter Thiel called 0 to 1 for anyone interested in starting a business. But I say that because there are so many incredible resources out there available to the entire community. But for veterans, they kind of have a head start because so many of these programs offer partial or full scholarships for the veteran community. And so, whether it's starting a business or any other pursuit that they may have, I would encourage everyone, just get curious and pursue that curiosity. Well, and you'll be surprised at who you meet along the way.
Well, okay, perfect segue, because we talk a lot with veteran business owners who have, like, when you're in the military, you have one network, but it's all military network. It's not business associates. It's not fraternity brothers running the bank. It's a different network, and it takes a while to build for veterans to build their civilian employment or passion network. And that's part of what you were doing for, 10 years before you really kind of broke in seriously into the venture world. But you got to do that. You got to build a new network, don't you?
That's right. And yes, and that comes, though, it's a byproduct of what I just said, which is ask yourself what it is you're curious about, and then follow that curiosity relentlessly. And you'll be surprised when you kind of wake up one day and look around and see the incredible people in your life. I think about this all the time, how grateful I am to have these incredible people, these investors and founders and dreamers and doers and builders in my life. And that just came as a function of following that curiosity. So I look back at all these dots that connect, right? I built incredible relationships in the military during my time in the Marines, of course, many of which I still stay in touch with now. I just had a call last week with someone I was in the Marines with. And then, going and doing my undergrad, I was still in touch with, I was in a fraternity there. I was part of the student veteran organization. So I still stay in touch with people in that network. And then when I was a startup founder, I obviously met a lot of people in that world. So I got to build upon all the different networks that I built in all of these different projects. Naturally, when you follow that curiosity, you're going to meet other people that are curious about the same thing. And again, you wake up one day and you're just kind of amazed at now all of a sudden the quality of people in your life.
I want to, before we turn to the venture fund in a little more detail, I want to talk a little bit, because you've mentioned it a couple of times, Mike Sherbakov, the family role here and an appreciation for what your parents have been able to do in a generation and what your siblings are doing now seems to be a real motivator for you. Tell us a little bit about where'd your parents come from? What rooted them into, hey, this is where we can build the family's future?
Well, interestingly, especially given the nature of what we invest in at the Veteran Fund, which is critical technology advancing America, I was born in Russia. So my parents, my mom's family, extended families from Ukraine. My dad his family's from Belarus. They met in Moscow University. And I remember speaking with my dad about this, but he knew that there wasn't opportunity there. He knew he wanted to leave. And he did get an incredible opportunity to come to the U.S. He's very, very smart. My dad was one of the first ones that invented the personal computer in Russia. And so he was recruited by a company that knew about him in the United States, in the Bay Area. And so they were very intentional about coming to the Bay Area because they knew that was kind of where the center of tech was. It was where the most opportunity existed. We moved to first a town called Berkeley, then we moved to Mountain View, California. This is before, I think, Google had just planted a seed there. They certainly didn't have the kind of campus or footprint they do now. But my parents were very intentional in setting us up for success. And I shared this actually with them this last Thanksgiving, is how grateful, when I look back, how grateful I am for them about the sacrifices they made. My parents have always put us as the kids first. They really, every move that they made was with their kids in mind, and how can we set them up for success. And so I'm very, very grateful to them. And interestingly, my third year in the Marines, when I ended up getting my secret clearance, I renounced my Russian citizenship, turned in my passport, and yeah, just grateful.
You're all in. I mean,
I'm all in.
That's sort of the message of Mike Sherbakov is, hey, he's all in. When he's into something, he's all in.
Yeah, and I actually remember them, in my interview process asking that question. I think it's just formality, and I understand it. And they asked the question of, if we ever get into some kind of kinetic conflict or conflict with Russia, whose side are you on? And I almost said, "Are you kidding me?" I bleed red, white, and blue. I love this country. It's in my DNA. I love America. I love everything America stands for, and I obviously will lay my life on the line to protect that way of life here.
Well, what caught my attention was a press release or a news article on the venture fund, which had got fully funded. I think it's first round. And I'll just read this and I'll ask you to explain it. The venture fund is dedicated to advancing America through venture capital. It focuses on sectors where technology meets the mission, like cybersecurity, AI, drones, space, advanced computing, and additive manufacturing. What a variety of cool, interesting, important areas. But tell us, for those who are going like, look, this is such a California thing. I don't know what the hell venture capital's about or venture funds are about. Can you give somebody the venture fund 101?
Yeah, let's very simply put. As I mentioned, I in addition to the veteran fund, I also run the veterans program for the world's largest startup accelerator. Right. This is, again, companies and startup founders that are going from 0 to 1. They have an idea. We say ideation to MVP, to minimum viable product. But to make it even simpler, Jim, we help people that have military veterans that have ideas start businesses. Now, when those businesses start to grow and scale, especially for us, the ones that are advancing our country, I mentioned some, you mentioned some of them, but we love what are called critical technologies: directed energy system, hypersonics, integrated sensing, human machine interfaces, advanced computing, renewable energy, space technology. I like to say investments that matter. When those companies get to a certain point, venture capital comes in and says, we love this. We are going to infuse it with capital to help this grow. And our target is, we come in at a certain stage of the company called the seed stage, very early. We come alongside them, we help them grow, and then we want to get that technology either into the hands of the warfighters or, depending on the industry. Like as an example, just a few days ago, one of our companies, Lone Star Lunar, did its second successful landing on the moon. And this company is on a mission to put data centers on the moon. So we are building and investing in technology that's advancing this country. We come in with the capital, the resources, and the network to make sure they succeed. Does that make sense, Jim?
Absolutely. I mean, this is where venture capital steps in where banks fear to tread, right? There's a lot of risk. It's still scaling up. We don't really know if it'll all work. Somebody has to put some money in and take on some risk that this thing will either grow like crazy or explode like crazy. And venture capital and those who fund it are willing to help support that growth and take on risk.
That's exactly the right way to put it. Yeah, it is an inherently risky asset class. Obviously, we come in very early, but with high risk comes high reward. And that reward is not only the financial incentive, which every single investment we make has. We do not invest if we don't see the potential for it to 100x. So every single investment we look at through the lens of, can this company 100x from where it is today? Yes, the financial incentive is a great one. But in addition to that, as I mentioned, these are technologies that we want to see exist in the world. So it's not necessarily the safe bet, but it's the bet that we make that we want this to exist. We want these space companies to continue to innovate. I mean, imagine if Elon Musk, with everything he's doing now, if no one believed in him. Imagine if he didn't believe in himself because he wanted to be more rational, or said, no, there's no way we can get to Mars, or there's no way we can build better electric vehicles, or we can create brain-computer interfaces. I mean, imagine what our world would be if we didn't have innovators and if we didn't have folks like us as VCs to back those innovators and builders and believe in them.
I want to, before we run out of time, and this always goes faster than you think it should, I want to at least mention your other general partners, because it's not a one-man show and everybody brings something else to the table. So tell us a little bit about your other partners.
They are, first of all, they are my best friends. I've known them since before we started the fund together, and we've only grown closer during our time running this. This absolutely would not exist, and you're absolutely right. This is not a one-man show. What's even more important is, in addition to my three partners, which I'll touch on briefly in a moment, we have incredible, they're called LPs, limited partners, investors in the fund, from a 4-star General McChrystal to folks like Deepak Chopra and the owners of the New England Patriots. We have incredible people that learned about our mission and decided to come alongside us. And as we just talked about, it's a risky asset class. They're taking a bet. They're investing in us because they believe in our mission, and I'm always grateful for that. I never forget about that. So just very quickly, one of my partners, Justin Nahama, Marine officer, federal prosecutor for 5 years, helped scale CrossFit when it was just 10 gyms to what it is today. He was Deepak Chopra's lawyer, incredible human. I cannot say enough great things about him. Lisa, real estate investor, built a $60 million real estate portfolio, won Miss Nevada, used that as a platform and ran for Congress, set a fundraising record for the state of Nevada in her congressional run. She's a member of YPO, which is an incredible organization. I cannot say enough great things about her. Ryan Micheletti also served in the military. He built a personal equity portfolio of 700 startups. That's how many are in his personal equity portfolio. So we all bring a very different set of experiences and network and resources to the Veteran Fund. And I think that really is what makes us successful, is our very unique and diverse backgrounds.
So you've mentioned Founders Institute, and if somebody says, oh, that's interesting, I want to dig a little more. Do you have a website for that?
We do. So it's very simple, fi.co/veteran. When they go to that, they'll see me on the homepage. They'll actually see, because of JP Morgan Chase, that all veterans receive a fellowship to go through that program for free. Again, fi.co/veteran.
And if they want more about the Veteran Fund, where do they look?
Yeah, we made our website as easy as possible. Veteran.fund, VETERAN.FUND. And they'll find all of our partners listed on there. They'll find all of our portfolio companies, our thesis. And if there's someone listening that has a company looking for investment, we write $500,000 up to $1.5 million checks into companies. So if they feel like they have a great company that kind of fits that mold, as I talked about, that's venture backable, that has that 100x potential, that's building in critical technology, I certainly encourage them to go to our website and apply for funding.
It's really an interesting story and an interesting focus and niche, and I wanted you to talk about your partners because in part it drives home this idea that this is a bunch of former military folk who understand this space, trying to do good, great limited partners, can bring some money to the table, but can more importantly bring expertise, guidance. I mean, just because you've got a great idea on critical technology, you may not be skilled in all the things associated with scaling it up. And that's part of what I'm sure the Veteran Fund brings to the table.
Yeah, we do. We come alongside our founders and we make sure that they're successful.
Well, I want to say thanks again, Mike, for taking some time to talk about the Veteran Fund here on Veterans Radio. We had to move things around to squeeze this in, but I'm glad we did. And I know you've got another commitment I got to get you to. So again, Mike Sherbakov, thank you for your service in the Marine Corps, but more importantly for the focus that you're doing now with the Veteran Fund.
Jim, thank you for the great work you're doing with Veterans Radio. I'm very grateful to be here.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org. We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, nvbdc.org, Legal Help for Veterans, a veterans disability law firm with a national practice before the VA, can help you on your claims and your appeals. It can be reached at legalhelpforveterans.com or 1-800-693-4800. And PuroClean, a leader in property emergency services. It's the paramedics of property damage, providing water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold and biohazard cleanups. You can reach them at puroclean.com or 800-775-7876. We also want to thank our local sponsors. This would include the Charles S. Kettles chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America, that's chapter 310, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, the American Legion Irwin Preskin Post 46 in Ann Arbor as well, the VA Ann Arbor Healthcare System, and certainly the National Vietnam Veterans of America Association. You can be a sponsor by going to veteransradio.org, clicking on the About Us and our sponsors, and help us out. Keep this program alive for the 21 and 22 years. Keep us going for another 20. Thank you.